Not as tall as Lincoln. Poor Jeff. I'd like to thank you guys all for coming out tonight. It means a lot to me to come support this idea. I know many of you are friends of mine, and longtime friends of mine, and I do, it means a lot to me personally. But I think far and beyond I'd like to think far and beyond my experience or my passion in this area, Atlas Service Corps is an idea that far and away its time has come. It's an idea that's time is long, like should have come a long time ago, in fact. And I tell sometimes people about Atlas Service Corps, and sometimes think to themselves, wow, that doesn't already happen yet? No, this is a new idea. So what I want to do over the next 10, 20 minutes is tell you in more detail about Atlas Service Corps. Maybe just spend a few minutes about how I came to this idea and how it's motivated me to leave a very secure job with the federal government. And then where the vision of this organization is going. Because I got to tell you, it's been a big year. 8 months ago, I was working for the U.S. Embassy as a Foreign Service officer, as a diplomat doing human rights work in a fascinating country in India. I met NGO leaders, NGO nonprofit leaders up and down the country and learned so much from these individuals. But come March, I left my job in the embassy. I came back to Delaware and D.C. for a few months, got married in May, moved to Columbia in June, and started this nonprofit. And in less than 6 months, the organization is now incorporated. We've done events in a couple of different cities around the country, and we're well positioned in 2007 to revolutionize international service. So, how did I get here? Before working at the U.S. Embassy, I worked for Ashoka, which is a great international nonprofit organization, working with NGO leaders around the world, mostly with Youth in America, but also NGO leaders around the world. And I met some of these dynamic people who inspired me in the way that they took on new issues, came up with new ideas to address big social issues. Before that, as has been said, in the White House, and proud to have worked for then Governor Tom Carper here in Delaware. So, what I had learned in my work in Bosnia and India was the perspectives that these NGO leaders had, these nonprofit leaders had, on some of the most important social issues, be it the treatment of women, HIV/AIDS, global warming, big global social issues, were amazing. Their perspectives, their on-the-ground realities, some of the skills that they use to address some of these issues, which, by the way, are not issues relegated to India or Colombia or developing world or countries beyond the United States. These are global issues that affect us here in the United States. In fact, very much here in Wilmington, Delaware. I was reading a newspaper article a couple months back about an anti-human trafficking case here in Delaware. You learn about modern-day slavery in India, and oh God, that's worlds away. And yet these issues aren't worlds away. We just sometimes keep them worlds away from our reality. These amazing NGO leaders, these incredible perspectives, the skills that they had were things that I felt that U.S. organizations could learn a lot from. That they could come here, they could teach U.S. organizations what they were doing so effectively. And yet at the same time, some of the most talented people overseas weren't embracing some of the methods that U.S. organizations are getting quite good at. The professionalization of the nonprofit sector, if you will. U.S. nonprofits, for some of you were telling me earlier, don't know a lot about the nonprofit sector. It's really evolved in the last 10 or 20 years, especially. There's more evaluation, there's more sustainability, there's more documentation of best practices. There's more embracing social issues and more of a business-minded market approach towards saving the world. It makes sense, frankly. There's reasons why businesses have good accounting practices, why they evaluate best practices, why they develop future leadership, because it makes money, and does the business well, and does society well in addition. Well, nonprofits can learn from businesses and have been in the United States. But these nonprofit leaders overseas, who have those unique perspectives, didn't have the same skills they were getting so good at in the U.S. In fact, what I was finding was this 0 and 1, this in-person relationship with what they were best at were some of the things that we struggle with most, perspective. Some of the best practices here were some of the things that they could learn from. So I thought, well, why not find ways to work together? Certainly there must be ways where a nonprofit leader from India, and again, I'm not talking about someone right out of school, or even an executive director, a mid-career professional, someone with 5, 6, 7, 8 years of experience, who's at a point in their career where they're still willing to learn new ideas, but have experience that they can impart and share at the same time. Certainly there must be some way for people overseas in the nonprofit sector to come to the United States. It's pretty common in the corporate sector. I mean, an example I'd love to give is, we all know, or should know, that for Microsoft or for Bill Gates, when they found that person in India to go to Seattle and invent Hotmail, free email service was created or multiplied. And we all benefited from that. We all benefited from the communication that email provides us. And Microsoft makes money, and India makes money, and we're all better off. Well, if we're going to do things like that to empower the internet, empower the corporate sector, why can't we find ways to cross borders to address HIV/AIDS, or hunger, or poverty, or the treatment of women, or global warming? Do you think global warming recognizes which country is which? Whether these issues are ones that are only affecting people far away, in communities that are poorer than us? The truth is that when I found some of the principles that the service corps was founded on is that one of the most important ones that I learned is that no one society has a monopoly on good ideas. All about Team America. I represented this country. I worked in the White House. I think Americans should be proud of what our society represents and what we've done overseas. But by no means can Americans simply, for 45 years, send Peace Corps members overseas and think that that's the only way to achieve peace. It's an important way. Great things. But there's no reason to think that we can't also learn in the reverse. We can't find ways to work together. Again, private sector, religious sector, government sector, academic sector. Everyone's doing this except for the nonprofit sector. This is embracing some of the globalization that's benefiting this world. To find ways to work together in the social sector. First principle, no one society's monopoly on good ideas. Second principle, there are few institutional ways for nonprofit leaders to cross borders. If you're dealing with HIV/AIDS in India, or hunger in India, or human trafficking, you're probably only making a few $1,000s a year. To get a visa to come to the United States is just about impossible. And this isn't hearsay. I used to work in the embassy in India. I know for a fact that if you're in India and you're making $4,000 or $5,000 a year, and you're 28 years old, and you're a single male, it's going to be tough. And that's just immigration laws, case of issue. But in the nonprofit sector, if you want to come volunteer, we need to create those avenues of cooperation. And some people say you need to have a conference to bring people together. But I believe that we've all been in conferences, we've all been to events where we've met people, you have a 3-day conference, and it's quite empowering. The things that you learn, the new ideas that come across, the connections that are made, and it's simply a 3-day conference. But then also think about our experiences with those people that we work with. Like it or not, some of our strongest relationships are those who we sit desk to desk next to. Most of us would prefer to spend more time with our family, more time with our nephew. The truth is that we spend most of the time with each week with people that we work with. Well, it's true in this fellowship too. So what we're going to do with Atlas Service Corps, what we're doing with this new organization, is identifying those rising nonprofit leaders overseas. Identifying those people who have great ideas, who are the future leaders in the nonprofit sector around the world, and bring them to the U.S. for a year. Bring them to Wilmington, Delaware. Bring them to Washington, D.C. Bring them to communities across the United States. Let this become the premier management development program for NGO leaders all around the world. That's the first goal. The second goal is let's build capacity among U.S. organizations. And by the way, these don't need to be international organizations. We're still kind of identifying partners. But I met with the Girl Scouts of America. Girl Scouts of America in D.C. are excited about possibly taking on Atlas Corps Fellow. Now, Girl Scouts have been accused of being very white and upper class and not representing the communities that they're a part of. So they're trying to increase their diversity. And so they're interested in having someone from Columbia, Latin background, Spanish speaking, all those things. But I knew they really got it when they told me this. We're trying to increase the diversity of our organization, but it's not just diversity of language, culture, or heritage. It's also diversity of ideas.